tribute to my father. Here's a picture of him and his 3 sons. If you're wondering, that's me driving at our farm in Lancaster County. We lived there till I was 2. Here's a picture many years later. I won't try to calculate. Mother and Daddy at our farm near the New York-Pennsylvania border. I remember Daddy working hard and long. When something needed to be done, he would just keep working at it. Not because, I don't think because he was driven, but because there was something that could be done and he could do it. And God sent him much joy and satisfaction. Corn that grew tall with good full ears, and cows with blue ribbons. This particular year, our farm had the best 3 females of the show. And a good conscience as a faithful steward before his God. My father saw his life and his farm as belonging to God. And he was managing it for God. He was a steward, and he wanted to be faithful to what God had entrusted to him. So he thought a lot about how to wisely manage his cows and his crops so that they would do well. Not so that he could accumulate wealth and be able to spend it on himself, but so that he would have more to give to those who were advancing God's kingdom. Karen and I visited him when he was 88. Mother was already in a nursing home, and he was living with my brothers. And he showed me this sheet. Part of it was maybe him not being humble as humble as he should have. I don't know. But part of it was, he reminds me of my sons. They just love to, write out, sheets, graphs, listing all kinds of stuff. He had fun going back over his checkbook registers, going back to when he had sold the farm 17 years earlier, listing all that he had given. This is a front and back of a sheet. And this was all that he had given above the tithe. This was nothing, didn't show anything that went to the home congregation. Daddy's and also mother's walk with the Lord was real as well. Daddy would read the Bible at the table before breakfast each morning. And we could tell that it was ritual for us, but it was not for him. He was feasting on the word that he was reading to us. And I think the reality of his relationship with the Lord is a big part. I and my 2 brothers, all of us were pastors. The one who is 8 years older than me, I don't know if he's still a pastor or not, but he's still in the church where he was a pastor. But a big part of my father's life was his interaction with the material things that God gave to him. So as I think of my father, I think of our text in Matthew chapter 6. Jesus, in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, he says, Matthew 6:19, don't store up treasures here on earth. And he goes on, where moths and rust destroy. The NIV now says vermin instead of rust. The Greek word is the act of eating. So translators decide, is that eating corrosion and rust, or is it, worms and vermin, eating up? Don't store up treasures where moths and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. Jesus is communicating the insecurity of our life if it's based on accumulating earthly treasures. You have nature's corrosions eating away, represented by the moth. You have time's corrosions, represented by the rust. And you have humanity's corrosions, if you want to word it that way, represented by the thief. Jesus wants us to avoid the loss, the disappointment that can come from pursuing material things. And even if we have the best financial advisor and, our estate, lasts us through all the years that we have there, we can't take whatever gold bricks we have with us to heaven. As the joke goes, why did you bring gold here? We paved our streets with that here. There does come a time when no matter how much money you have, it's not going to gain you another day. It's not going to help you. Don't have the goal of your life pursuing material things. They will not last. So don't store up treasures here on earth, Jesus says, but store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust and thieves can't destroy. When Buddha saw that material things so often let us down, he called his followers to jettison all desire. Jesus goes another way. He doesn't call us to remove desire, but he redirects it. And uproot human ambition and passion, as the Buddha taught, but he counsels us to instead be collecting treasures for yourself in heaven. Be loving God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, making it your ambition to be a success before God, with God, to impress him, to accumulate the rewards and treasures of God's notice and esteem. How do we do this? How do we collect treasures in heaven? One answer is in a text that is closely parallel to our text. Luke chapter 12, verse 33, Jesus says, "Give to those in need. This will store up treasure for you in heaven, and the purses of heaven never get old or develop holes. Your treasure will be safe. No thief can steal it, and no moth can destroy it." That was a New Living Translation. Jesus also says this to the rich young ruler in Matthew 19, verse 21. "Go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." So we store up treasure in heaven by helping those in greater need than us. Maybe you'll give it directly to those in need. Maybe you'll give it to a person or organization to enable them to, as they work directly with those in need. And as we do that, one day we will hear those words, "What you did to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did to me." So the times that you have some money in your hands and you are deciding how to spend it, does heaven win or does earth win? The last comment that Jesus makes in our text is verse 21. It gives perhaps the most important reason not to store up treasures here on earth, but in heaven. It's a profound insight into how things work within us as humans. Jesus says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Jesus is not saying, work to put your treasure where your heart is, work to get your behavior in line with your goals. He's not saying that. He's saying it is a fact that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your treasure is, that's where your center of gravity will be. In other words, it's not just that our goals shape our spending, but our spending shapes us, shapes what we're interested in, what we're occupied in. Your spending shapes your heart. Probably the easiest example, like right now, I pay little attention to the current value of various companies in the stock market. I've been watching the Dow, seeing it go up, and I'm sort of glad that it's coming down a little now because I was afraid it would just keep going and then really bust. And, I want to retire relatively soon, but I watch the total, but I don't pay much attention to the value of various companies. But if Karen and I would sink money that we could free up into the stock of some company that we deemed, a good company and going to be rising in value, I would then start paying regular, maybe even obsessive attention to that particular stock value. Our interest in anything varies according to our investment in it. If you financially support a child in a third world country, like through Compassion International, you find yourself becoming extra interested in that company and also in hearing how that child is doing. The bulletin, the little half-sheet bulletin, talks about Mennonite Central Committee providing emergency relief in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They had a volcanic eruption a little over 3 weeks ago. Hundreds of homes were destroyed by the flowing lava. Many families' land is now stone where they were farming. Here's a picture of it that what looks like just whatever piles of rock dumped by dump trucks or whatever. That's the lava flow in the foreground there. I can guarantee you that if you donate to that emergency relief fund, then you'll start to notice and be aware of things that are in the news about the Congo. We might say that we want to have heaven have more value than earth for us. But Jesus is telling us that if we spend our income for earth with little care of being rich toward God, we are going to find having Jesus as Lord rather than something else of this earth. We're going to find having heaven as something that we value very difficult. because where your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. When we don't find ourselves wanting to put the kingdom first, maybe we don't have enough at stake in it. There's something about giving a significant chunk to God that can break the hold that earthly accumulation can have on us. And 10% seems to be that sort of sweet spot. It is big enough, it hurts enough to impact our heart, but yet is not so much that it means that we can't provide for our needs. And somehow that 90% even goes better, stretches farther than what the 100% used to, because we're no longer fixated on the material world and buying things that we say we need when they're really wants.